Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com. In the 19th century, Russian scientist Ivan Pavlov taught dogs to drool at the sound of a bell. The bell and drooling had nothing to do with each other, but he created this conditioned response by repeating the same patterns over and over again. Now let's fast forward to the present time when a similar mass conditioning experiment is being done on the human race. I found this article yesterday, Melting Away. This is a comparison shot of the same place in the Arctic. The first was taken in 1917 and the second was taken in 2020. They show just how much the Arctic ice is melting. Scientists say it's melting at a rate that's twice as fast as the rest of the world, with dire consequences for the warming of the planet. That's pretty interesting. I didn't realize that the rest of the world was melting. The author printed a nonsensical conditioned response to what he saw in the photographs. But the real conditioning is visible in the top sentence. He says the photographs show how much we humans have impacted our environment. The author believes the reason the ice edge retreated between 1917 and 2020 was because of something that humans did. It's unlikely that this person in the boat removed all of that ice from 1917. The author's assumption is that the ice was stable in 1917 and it's disappeared since then because of the burning of fossil fuels. But in 1908 it was reported there was a general retreat of European glaciers since 1861. In 1905, Valdez, Alaska had to be relocated because a glacier above the city was melting so fast it was threatening to drown the town. In 1903, it was reported that the glaciers in the Alps had been retreating since 1890 as much as 50 feet per day. In 1902, it was reported that the famous glaciers of the Rhone had shrunk several thousand feet in the past 20 years. In 1896, National Geographic reported that the glacier at Glacier Bay, Alaska had retreated some 40 miles since 1794. In 1923, a prominent scientist and engineer in Europe said he believed there were no glaciers in Europe during the Middle Ages. In 1903, it was reported that the Jakobshavn Glacier in Greenland had receded 8 miles since 1850 and had lost 20 to 30 feet of depth. This map shows the retreat since 1850. There was a large amount of retreat between 1851 and 1964. The Jakobshavn Glacier retreated very rapidly from 1851 to 1875, but now that same glacier is growing, according to NASA. So the glacier was retreating when carbon dioxide levels were low, but now that carbon dioxide levels have increased, the glacier is growing. In 1910, it was reported that glaciers over almost all of the world had been retreating since 1836. 100 years ago, it was reported Arctic Ocean warming up. In some places, seals are finding waters too hot, says report. The Arctic Ocean is warming up, icebergs are growing scarce, and in some places the seals are finding the waters too hot, according to a report to the Commerce Department today from the consul at Bergen, Norway. Reports from fishermen, seal hunters, and explorers, he declared, all point to a radical change in climatic conditions and hitherto unheard of high temperatures in the Arctic zone. Great masses of ice have been replaced by moraines of earth and stones, while at many points well-known glaciers have entirely disappeared. The text in this paragraph is a little bit garbled, but what I just read to you is what the original report said. According to the United States Geological Survey, the glaciers in Glacier National Park were either very small or non-existent during the medieval warm period. They formed during the Little Ice Age. The glaciers began to melt around 1850, and by 1923 they were melting so fast, experts predicted they would be gone in another 25 years, which would have been before 1950. In 1976, National Geographic showed how quickly glaciers in Austria had retreated between 1903, 1929, and 1940. By 1956, the lower glacier was completely gone. This sequence shows how quickly the Abreki Glacier in Norway retreated between 1869, 1933, and 1946. Glaciers were shrinking very quickly, long before SUVs were invented. Going back to the original article, the author has been conditioned to believe that the retreat of the ice between 1917 and 2020 was caused by humans. His belief system is completely irrational and it's not based on reality, but through a process of repetitive conditioning, The author makes an association between two things which have nothing to do with each other, just like Pavlov's dogs did in the 19th century. 20,000 years ago, Chicago and New York were buried under a mile of ice. It's unlikely that Neanderthal SUVs caused the ice to disappear. Before all of this repetitive conditioning started, in 1967, National Geographic reported the behavior of glaciers was controlled by the sun. They said, Alaska's ice masses advance and retreat in direct correlation with cyclic changes in sunspot numbers. A sensible person might recognize the fact that the sun has a lot more control over our climate than the 1 part per 10,000 increase in CO2 over the past century. Toto is a very smart dog, and he wonders why it's so easy to condition humans into irrational belief systems. You can visit Toto, Kyrie, and Caesar on the web at realclimatescience.com.